Well, good morning, everybody. How are we doing? Welcome to another LandFX webinar. I hope you're ready. We are doing another Ask Us Anything, this time on all the stuff regarding, the database, the cloud, and shared online folders. It's something that we deal with a lot in the tech support realm. Every day someone's calling in or emailing and saying, I'm thinking of switching to cloud, or we're moving one server from, our server died and blah blah blah. And we end up having this conversation over and over every day. And so we thought, well, we definitely need to do a webinar, but let's do it as an Ask Us Anything. So we are going to kind of go through and show you a lot of the basics and things, but also it's technically an Ask Us Anything. We really want that input because we're not sure if we're answering your questions. So this is the place to have your questions. So please have any sorts of questions regarding, where do I host the LandFX files? Where do I what do you recommend for anything regarding that? We really want to address those questions that we've been unable to think of that are nagging at you. In short, if you're not using our cloud data, and if you're not hosting LandFX on a shared online folder, why? That's very much what we would like to know. So please tell us why, and give us your questions and your concerns, and this is the place to voice them. Um, Before I hand this over to Matt to go through our little slideshow and take it away while you're getting your questions ready, do note there's that Q&A button at the bottom. That's where you're going to want to enter those questions at any time. You're welcome to. We'll get those all lined up and get them addressed. So I've addressed the questions. I've addressed the recording. I think that's it. Hey, Matt, let's take this away.
Hey, thanks a lot for the intro, Jer. As Jer was saying, and good morning, everyone, that we are talking today about what makes up your LandFX installation and why you should be using a shared online folder or another solution there to go to cloud data with LandFX. It's just the ins and outs here for that. So let's begin. I'm Matt Zigan. I'm an install tech for LandFX here. I do have a title of Master Juggler, but that's more metaphorical. I am not a great juggler. So we're discussing the different types of configurations today with LandFX, what's best for you and how to set them up. We'll go over some installations today just so we can walk through that and move the LandFX folder around and show you how to do so. Just a reminder, Jer already mentioned this, but this is an Ask Me Anything, so we want your input. Use the Q&A section to ask us your questions. It doesn't have to be technically related to what we're talking about today, but if you do have any issues, any errors are popping up, this is not the right format for that. Go ahead and open up a ticket on our website or send an email to support@landfx.com. All right. Okay, so local and cloud configurations. What does it mean and which is best? Um, when you're in a cloud configuration, cloud data with LandFX doesn't necessarily mean we provide cloud storage for you. It doesn't mean you'd keep your drawings or your blocks or anything like that with us. In a cloud configuration, that means that we work as your database server. We host your projects and preference sets. Which is best? I would definitely say we recommend going with the cloud data. That way you're not running some MySQL database or SQLite database on a local system. Going over installations and how to configure. We're going to be going over the components that make LandFX. That's cloud data. That's the FX server, and then your CAD engine or your CAD interface and the FX workstation component. We'll be going over cloud data configurations or installs and local data configurations and installs. We'll also go over how to reconfigure. If you're already in a cloud or in a local data situation, if you have a MySQL database running on a server in a shared LandFX folder, we'll show you how to migrate that to cloud data and then get that LandFX folder moved up to another location. Um, where to host your LandFX folder. That's a very important part there. We're going to be covering the common shared online folder providers, as well as ones not to use, and a little bit on the uncommon ones or maybe some enterprise solutions there. We'll cover the pricing as well as the feature set of those common shared online folder providers. And we'll go over some backups and versioning, or at least what to do in those situations. Now, on cloud data, this is cloud versus local data, by the way. In cloud data configuration, your LandFX folder can be virtually anywhere. Um, Now, when you put your LandFX folder on a shared online folder provider, um, like Dropbox or Google Drive, you're not going to be able to point directly at those. You'll have to set up a mapped network drive. That would be a letter drive when you go to this PC and File Explorer. And I'll be showing you how to set that up with our LandFX drive mapper utility. And depending on where you put it, like if it's a local server share, then you'll be able to just use Windows to map a network drive. And I'll show you that as well. Uh, so data is backed up instantly across 5 worldwide data centers. Now, these are our servers in a cloud data configuration. When you bring up your projects list or, access any preference set information from your drawing, it will be hitting our servers for that on the internet. Now, that that that's definitely the way you want to go. If you're working from a local data configuration, right here on the right, uh, your LandFX folder and your LandFX database will either be on your local system or on a server on your local network. Um, Now, a lot of people that they will say that they want control of their data or they prefer to have it locally, just in case like your internet goes down or something like that. And we'll be covering that. There's lots of ups and downs to that situation. So continuing down the list here, LandFX License Manager can be used to assign licenses. So if you're not familiar, we do have a LandFX License Manager. Now that will allow you to assign or unassign LandFX licenses from individual systems. And a local data configuration, that'd be local data and local licensing, all the LandFX licenses will be put on your server or whatever's hosting that LandFX database. Um, and then from there, the systems will grab the license from the server. But the LandFX license manager is not really useful at that point when you're in a local data configuration because you can't see the license being assigned to your machine from the server. All you'll see in the LandFX license manager is your licenses assigned to that server. So when it comes to troubleshooting, when you're getting an error like not enough LandFX licenses or all of your LandFX licenses are currently in use, it's really helpful to be able to use the LandFX license manager to be like, oh, well, your system's just not pulling a license, and here, let's just try manually putting one on. And usually that'll resolve the issue there. But again, in a cloud data configuration, we can actually use that as a tool to see what's going on or why something is happening. So the next thing down the list here is always access your current project and preference set data. Um, when you're in a cloud data configuration, what you're seeing is, like I said, your projects and preference sets directly from our servers. That's 100% live. Now, you don't even have to be connecting to the same LandFX folder as any other installation, any coworkers' machines. You will still see that exact live data. If they open up a project and they're working on it and they add a plant and then save, that will automatically update the data on our servers. And when you connect and you open up that same drawing and you see the plant list, you will see that updated plant list. You'll see the new plant that they added. And a local data configuration, if you're not connected to the same database as the other coworker there, you're not going to get that same data. And if you're working remotely and not connected to the database that's on the work server, you're not going to get that data. So with cloud data, you get a definite boon on that. Always working with live data. Now, in this on the next item here, ubiquitous internet means anywhere. You can get internet anywhere these days, and that's just amazing to me. Now, if you're up in the hills, you can just get Starlink, and you've got not just internet, but broadband internet. You can go into the middle of the desert and have internet as long as you got a generator and a computer. So it really helps out in the cloud data situation to where you can have cloud data anywhere you are. Um, it doesn't mean, or it doesn't matter the internet connection that you're connecting to either, as long as, there's no some major security and firewall blocking our connection. You're going to be working with the live data anywhere you connect to. Starbucks, yeah, you can work there. All right, next item down the list here is our cloud data service is free. There's no additional charge for this. We provide this to all of our clients, no matter, you know, if you have one planting effects license or if you have 50 irrigation effects licenses, you can do cloud data with us for free. Next item is restore LandFX data instantly. Just set up a new workstation, point to our servers. Now, in a local data configuration, what you'll be doing is when you have to set up a new system, like let's just say you're single user local data and you get a new computer because the old one's just pooping out. What you want to do is you grab our data migration tool, and that grabs your LandFX folder and your local database. And you can put that on a thumb drive, move it over to the next system, and do a restore. And that works out, but it's a huge hassle. With cloud data, all you do is install, point it at, cloud data, and you're set. You're looking at your current projects and preference sets at that point. Okay, let's briefly go down the local data list. I covered a lot of these points while talking about cloud data. But in a local data configuration, your LandFX folder, as I said, is going to be on your local hard drive or on a server on your work network. When you're installing with local data, and with a server configuration, you do have to install from the server and to a local drive. You cannot install to a mapped drive from the workstation, and you cannot install to a mapped drive on the server. It all has to be local there because that database, that MySQL database, is going to be pointing at the LandFX folder, and it has to run natively there. Backups for local data, uh, maybe. I mean, if you're going to set it up manually or have a third-party application, there are some built-in Windows utilities for doing backups, but I've never recommended that myself. Always go third-party when you're doing server backups. So, in the cloud data configuration, you're backed up across our servers worldwide. No matter where you are, that's going to be backed up, and we will always we use Amazon Web Services for our servers, and that's pretty bulletproof when it comes to data security and data backup. So you're always going to have your projects and preference set lists if you're going to be using cloud data. Uh, Again, the LandFX license manager is only useful for license count and assigning the licenses to the server in a local data configuration. Um, it's just not going to be helpful when we're trying to troubleshoot why an individual workstation can't pull a license from your local server. So not helpful in that case. Now, not sharing project or preference set data unless you are connected to the same server or LandFX folder. Again, I had briefly gone over this, but in a local data configuration, if you're not pointing at the same database, you're not looking at the same data. So you have to be local or connecting to a VPN to wherever that database is. And we do not recommend using LandFX over a VPN. It's adding a lot of overhead and will cause delays in any commands that you run or functions that you use with LandFX. Now, if your server goes down or your laptop is stolen, eh, unless you have a backup somewhere of your projects and preference sets, your data's gone. Uh, there's no recovering it unless you have a backup of that somewhere else, on an alternate computer or just somewhere where you keep backups. Uh, with a cloud data configuration, again, all you have to do is install and point it at our servers, and you'll get your data back. All right.
Yeah, and if you really think like, I mean, you're like, oh no, I want local data for whatever reason, right? No, but I want to, you tell your IT person, yeah, but I want that immediate offsite backup as well. I want you to engineer some sort of database replication so that it's
Mhm.
automatically backed up offsite. And the hilarity of that thought is, right? First of all, it'd be extremely expensive, right? How much are you going to spend for that?
Right.
And second of all, how do you do that without an internet connection? So you can't. And so that's the hilarity of it is like if anyone's like, oh yeah, well, I've got an offsite backup system. How do you possibly do that without utilizing the internet? What, you have an armed courier who gets his little has the little briefcase handcuffed to him, and he takes the drive out, and what, every hour you send another armed courier on a flight to another city so you get it far enough away to be safe from natural disaster. I mean, no, it's like it's one of the incredible benefits that the internet offers is you get that immediate, instantaneous offsite backup, which is just fantastic. I mean, you could be at a coffee shop working on your laptop. You come back from the bathroom and your laptop's stolen. Well, guess what? All your data is backed up without even thinking about it. I mean, so that's the beauty of it.
Yeah, and what Jared's referring to there is one of the points that clients make when choosing local data is, oh, hey, our internet goes down all the time, or what if the internet goes down? That's what Jared's referring to is you have to have an internet connection, really. Um, if you are set for local data, sure, you can continue working in LandFX with your local database, but you have to think about this long term. You do have to have backups. Your internet is necessary for 99.9% of what everyone does these days. So, yeah, you have to have an internet connection. And we'll be covering that in the following slides. Okay, so we're going to do some demonstrations here. First, let's just go over the points here. Installations and how to reconfigure. The components of LandFX, as I mentioned before, uh, first component is the FX server. Now, FX server is what creates the LandFX folder that the LandFX plugin works from. The LandFX folder is integral. It's very important. It's where your custom blocks, the LandFX blocks, your details, all of that live. Next step is FX CAD. You can use AutoCAD, Civil 3D, Map 3D, a lot of different CAD engines you can use with the LandFX plugin, our product, of course, being FX CAD. Now, the last component there is FX Workstation. Now, this is what actually allows you to use the LandFX plugin in your CAD interface. This is what puts all the LandFX menus, buttons, tools, ribbons into the CAD interface. So FX Workstation, that's necessary. You need to install that in order to use LandFX. But the FX server, I would say, is what the LandFX plugin is. It's just the other components that make it necessary or are necessary to use the plugin. Now, for a cloud data installation, okay, we're going to go ahead and go over that. Setting up a LandFX folder, where to put the LandFX folder, and how to repoint the LandFX workstation once that LandFX folder is moved. So let me bring up my server here. Oh, I'm going to have to exit full screen. There we go. Okay. All right, so here is my server. And I've got our installers here. I've got the local data installer for FX server, and I have the cloud data installer. We're going to go with local data first. So I'm just going to run this installer here. Now you can find these installers on our support page. And they are just, you can just download them from the website. And so the first thing here that the FX server installer is going to ask for is your support ID. Let me go ahead and grab that real quick. Pop it in there. Now, the support ID is what identifies you. It's what identifies your profile on our database. So this individual string here, this unique key, is going to tell you what your support date is. And that's listed right here. That's when your renewal comes up and you renew your licenses and what date you can use the plugin to until you've renewed, of course. So we put that in and it said that we're good to go. So I'm going to set up my LandFX folder on the server on the C drive. Now, most servers are going to have like a data drive or something like that. So you can just change it to D LandFX or wherever you want to put that LandFX folder. Now, just click I agree and let's get going. Now, when this installs, because this is the local data installer, not only is it going to be setting up that LandFX folder like I was talking about, this is also going to set up the MySQL database that will be handling your preferences and projects. So it says we're good to go. Let's go ahead and hit install. And now it's going to do so. Okay, all done. All right, so now if we bring up the services, we'll see that it added the MySQL service there, and that is running in the background now. And it is set to automatic, so if you ever reboot your server, it will come back up and begin hosting your database again. All right, so now that that's set up, and I've already configured this, but I'm going to go over it with you anyway. Very, very important step when you're setting up for local data or cloud data. On your server here on a local server, what you want to do is go to your LandFX folder, and we're going to have to share this. So we're going to the sharing tab here. And like I said, I've already set this up, but we're going to go to advanced sharing and we're going to give it a share name and we're going to set the permissions. Make sure that you set the permissions for the users on your network so that they have at least read and write permission to the LandFX folder and all child subdirectories and files. Now, you can just set it for everyone like me, but this is just a demonstration. Full control is preferred, but read and write is what's necessary there. So once you have your sharing set up and your permission set up on the LandFX folder, all will be good. So these are the basic files that are included in your LandFX folder. The biggest one here is your landfx.vlx. If that one's not there, you're going to get, well, you can get a couple of different errors because of that, depending on what you're trying to do with your LandFX plugin. So now that the server's set up, I'm going to go ahead and bring out my workstation. Boom, boom, boom. All right. So this is my demo workstation here. Now, I've already installed FXCAD because we're not really covering that today. FXCAD is FXCAD. It can go with any configuration that you're going to do. So I've already got that installed, but now I need to install FX Workstation. Now, FX Workstation, as I said, is what puts the plugin into your CAD interface. But also it configures in the background quite a few different things. But we'll go over that. So running the FX Workstation installer, just a splash screen here, and next. So this is going to ask you two questions. In a local data configuration, it's going to ask you two questions. The first one is, where's your LandFX folder? Now, it's on the server, right? But we did share it. Now, I've already set up this mapped drive, and as you can see, it's pointing at my server with a UNC path, but it's mapping to a Z. You can set this up any way you want as far as the letter configuration. But I'm going to go ahead and disconnect this and then reconnect it to show you. Okay, so, oh, and it closed File Explorer. Okay, so what you want to do is this PC here, all you do is just right click it and map a network drive. Now we just put in the location of the shared LandFX folder. In this case, I'm going to put in the server name and then put in LandFX because that's the name of the share. And then we're going to reconnect at login. Z is what I'm choosing, but you can choose any letter that you want. But what you have to make sure is that every workstation that you're configuring is using the same letter. So let's just choose H for no good reason. So now we have an H drive pointing at that shared LandFX folder. And we'll go back to our workstation installer here. And now, because it's pointing, the map network drive is pointing directly at the LandFX folder, all we have to do is put in h:\\. Now, if you map the drive to a parent folder of the LandFX folder or somewhere deep in a path, you can put in the additional things like if it was hLandFX or if it was h whatever, you would just put in that full path to the LandFX folder. Just hit I agree and next. Now, like I said, it's going to ask you two questions. It's going to ask you where's your LandFX folder, and then the other question here is what is the name of your FX server host? So what this is really looking for is the name of the server that has the database. Now, because of our installation, the way we did it, the database and the LandFX folder are on the same server. So I'm just going to paste in that server name again. Hit next. And that window, here, let me go back. When you hit next here, it actually does a live check to make sure that it connects to that database at this very moment when you click next. If you hit next, it does the check, and if it fails, it'll let you know. It'll say, hey, you can't connect to this. What's wrong? You put in the wrong name or something? So that's when, if it goes to this screen, you know you've done well. You know you're set. It's connecting to the database and everything's good. So we'll just hit install here. And as I said, this is what puts the LandFX menus, buttons, tools, ribbons into your CAD interface. So what it's doing is it's setting up the files and the folders that it needs. And I guess while that's going, I could show you real quick. Let's go to C, Program Files, Autodesk, Application Plugins, LandFX.bundle, Contents, Resources. And now, see, you can see it put all the CUIX files for all the versions of CAD that we support. So these are all individual, broken up by the year of the CAD that you use. It also, it includes a lot of other background stuff and files and information that it posts, but these are the ones that I mostly get calls on when we have to do a menu load, like if your LandFX menus are missing. These are what we point to in order to get those menus to show. All right, so FX Workstation finished installing. Let's go ahead and open up FX CAD and take a look. Oh, and make sure that when you install FX Workstation, you do not have your CAD engine or CAD interface open at the time. That may cause an issue. or may cause the LandFX menus to not show. Okay, so once installed, it's already telling me that my VLX, the landfx.vlx file in the landfx folder, this one here, is out of date. And it's already prompting me for an update. So well, I unchecked that, but I really shouldn't. Whenever you update, don't uncheck this. We do on the support desk here, we get quite a few tickets where people have not backed up for a while, and they need to recover their data. So just don't uncheck this. Just make sure you always have a current backup going. All right, we got the notification here that we're up to date. So let's minimize that and go back to FXCAD. Okay, as you can see, I've got my LandFX menu showing up just fine. Great. So let's go over to FX admin and project list. Oh, all my licenses are currently in use. Okay. See, that's a common issue there. Um, Great. I don't really want to get into any troubleshooting right now, but I think that ought to do it. Yes. Okay, we got a license assigned. So since this is a brand new installation, local data, we have no projects. This is completely empty. So let's go ahead and exit and open it back up because there we go. New. So we're going to make a couple of test projects. Okay. And let's make one more. Okay. So let's just pretend that this project list here contains many more and they're all your projects here. So now we have two project files. Let's do a backup real quick and I'll show you what that's like. So what that's doing is that's backing up all your data, your projects and preference sets into this LandFX data backup and then today's date folder. So this contains my projects and my preference sets. Now, in a cloud data configuration, I'm probably not going to show you, but this will do the exact same thing wherever your LandFX folder is held. Now, that's going to be on a shared online folder or wherever you end up putting it, but it will be the same configuration here. Data, backup, and then the date that you made the backup. Okay, so now that we've got our local data configuration, everything's set. I can access my drawings and I'll assign them projects and everything's good. I'm doing my workflows, everything's set. Now, let's just say that the time has come to where you're tired of running a MySQL database on your server. You want to change to cloud data with LandFX. So that's super simple. Now, the first thing we want to do is make a backup, which I just did. So we have a current backup now, again, in the LandFX data backup folder. Oh, that's my, sorry, I should be deleting that. There we go. Now let's go to the server, LandFX folder, data backup, and we have our backup there that contains the LFX files, which are preference sets, and LFX files here, which are the projects. So once we have our backup, what we do is run the enterprise command. Now, this window's awesome. So not only will it tell us our install location, which is when I made that H drive, and it points directly to the LandFX folder. So this will always point at the LandFX folder that you are connected to. It also gives me the name of my database server and how I connect. This is MySQL. So in order to change to cloud data and cloud licensing, super simple. You check two boxes and hit OK. Boom, you're done. You're so done. Now, we do have one little issue, which is if we go to our project list. Oh, I see that. Okay. So we do have some projects here that are on this support ID. But again, you do not see the projects that I made. To get the projects back on here, there's two ways to do it. Now, we highly recommend that you use the LandFX portal to do so. But to save time here, what I'm going to do is just import them. Since I only have two as well, it's very simple. Now, if you do this, if you re-import your projects and your preference sets um, locally here through the CAD interface, you can only do it one at a time. So that's why we recommend doing it through the portal, as you can upload up to 200 at a time here. So I'm going to go to Restore and then Import. Now, this is going to bring up a browse window. And like I said, we can only do one at a time, but I'm going to bring in that one. It's going to ask me the project number, and it'll grab that from the file. So you can usually just hit OK, and it'll have the same project number it always has. And then I'm going to bring in my other one, Restore, Import, 2, and done. So I have both of my projects here, and now they're in the cloud. So as I said before, if you have something happen to your workstation and it breaks down and you have to set up a new computer quick, all you have to do is just do an FX workstation install, point it at that existing LandFX folder that you have out on a SOF, a shared online folder, or on your local server still, and you get your projects back. No need to do a restoration of a database or being concerned that you don't have a backup of the database or your project somewhere. That will already be done. So let's go ahead and exit. Okay, let's bring this back up here. Oops, there we go. Okay, so we've gone over the FX server installation. We discussed the FX CAD interface, and then we went over an FX workstation install. Then we set up a LandFX folder, and now let's discuss this more with the cloud data. Setting up a LandFX folder and where to put that folder. Now, I've already made a copy of the LandFX folder here. But now that, okay, better yet, let's just. Okay, so I've got Google Drive set up on this. There, you can use any shared online folder service that you want, but Google Drive here is what I'm using. Now let's go ahead and I'm sorry, I should have disconnected this first. So I want to go over the mapping of it with you. Okay, so on Google Drive, I put my LandFX folder. Now, this is the one that's been configured for cloud. Once you've configured once you've gone through the enterprise command and configured it for cloud in your CAD interface, you can move that LandFX folder wherever you want. It's no longer tied to the database. So I've moved my LandFX folder over to my drive on Google Drive. So now it's sitting there with the exact same files. Oh, we don't need the setup workstation, do we? It's set up here on Google Drive with the same exact LandFX files. Now, to repoint my workstation install to this LandFX folder, we've got a couple of options, but the best way to do this is to use our LandFX Drive Mapper utility here. Let's go ahead and run that. Now, this is going to ask you two questions. First, it's going to ask you, where's your LandFX folder located? Now, we can hit browse to it, but the much easier way to do this is to browse to your LandFX folder in File Explorer, and then you can just grab the address. Now, you'll notice that this is a local address. This is my local C hard drive. It's going to my users directory. But that's just where the Google Drive maps to on your local system so that it can sync so that the files work locally. Now we're going to copy that. We're going to paste it here. And then the second question is what LandFX or what drive letter do you want to use to map it to? We usually prefer L for LandFX just to make things simple. But again, you can choose any drive letter that you want. Just make sure all workstations are using the same letter. I hit map. This is going to ask us, this appears to be a drive, a shared online folder. And you say yes and okay. Now, before I get any further, I do want to mention this super important. If you are using a shared online folder service to host your LandFX folder, you want to make sure that that LandFX folder is configured for being available offline. Now, the reason we recommend that is because your LandFX installation, your LandFX plugin installation is going to be looking for specific files in here, specifically this landfx.vlx file, this install.xml, and anything else that you access within these, like hatches and details. Now, it's best to have it synced continuously to where the files are always hosted locally as well and being synced all the time. To do that, all you have to do, and this works on pretty much any shared online folder service, not just Google Drive. You right click and go to offline access and make sure it's set to available offline. Now, this may look different with other shared online folder services, but essentially it's about the same thing. You just want to make sure that the folder is set to be available offline. Once you set that, it also sets all the subfolders and subfiles to the same. You can tell by this green check mark here on each of the icons. Okay, so that's been set. We have an L drive now pointing directly to that. And keep in mind, this is just a shortcut pointing to that. It's not a whole new thing. It's just a shortcut pointing to the shared online folder, LandFX folder. All right, so now let's go back in here and let's get us repointed to that new location for the new LandFX folder. But to do that, we just hit the options command and make sure you've clicked on the files tab. The first one, the one we want is the first one here, the support file search paths. Now, see, it's pointing to H, and that's the location of the LandFX folder on our local server. So now that we've moved the LandFX folder, let's go ahead and change that. That's going to be L fonts, and L patterns. Apply. Okay. Now there is one more thing that we want to do to make sure that we're pointed correctly and it's not going to have an issue. We want to edit an entry in the registry, the Windows registry. Now this has to be done on each workstation because your initial install of FX Workstation was to that H drive. It's going to think that your install path is H until we change this. So let's bring that up. All right, so here's our Windows registry editor. And we want local machine, software, ecographics, LandFX. And you see this install path is pointing to H. We're just going to change that to L:\/ and hit OK. Now, what this install path key does is if there's ever an issue reaching that L drive that you put into your support file search paths, it may revert back to that H path. So we want to not revert to that. We want to stay at L. So that's why we're changing that. Now, an easier way of doing that, and what I should have explained first, was that if you just reinstall FX Workstation, it changes that install path key for you once you've pointed it to the new L drive location. So you can either repoint your support file search paths and then change that registry key, or you can just uninstall and reinstall FX Workstation, and that will do the same thing. So now we've changed our support file search paths. It's a good idea to close and reopen FXCAD or your CAD interface in order to make sure that it's fully set and accessing that data. But once you open that back up, you'll be pointed at L and everything will be kosher. Great. So let's go ahead and bring back. There we go. Oops, we're on the wrong thing. Okay. So we've also set up the local data server and LandFX folder. And I touched briefly before on migrating a local data server to a new server. We have a LandFX migration, data migration tool. And like I said, what that'll do is it'll copy the database as well as the LandFX folder. And then you just run that tool again on the new server in the LandFX folder, and that will restore the database that was on the previous server as well as the contents of the LandFX folder. Again, that's a big pain. Doing a migration, especially considering the size of a LandFX folder, the sizes it can get to. I've seen them upwards of 13 gigs, and that could be quite a pain. But once you get it up to a shared online folder, being able to access it from anywhere in the world, you're all set, man. So cloud data is definitely the way to go. Here I have a comparison. This is just a quick check on the three big shared online folder services that we encounter with our clients. Number one being Google Drive. That is definitely the most utilized by our clients, I would say. Dropbox comes in a close second. There are quite a few clients that use Dropbox. Now, OneDrive, that is ubiquitous. It's everywhere. Everyone's got it. Every Windows machine has it built in. But we don't recommend that. And I'll be going over that shortly. First, let's talk about Google Drive. Number one, it's fast. It definitely is one of the faster of the shared online folder services. It has excellent syncing. You will not run into too many syncing issues with that. Now, a lot of offices will have a check protocol to where they will check with other coworkers to make sure no one's working on a drawing or a project, and then they will access it. Every office is different. They have their own, way of doing things. But as long as you just keep a basic check in place, you're not really going to notice any syncing issues with Google Drive, with your drawings, or with anything in the LandFX folder, any of the blocks in there. With Google Drive on a basic account, you will get 15 gigs of space to work with. Now that is plenty enough for a LandFX folder. I'm not saying I haven't seen a LandFX folder that was bigger than 15 gigs, but the vast majority will stay under that limit, and so a free basic account will work. So next on the list there is you also get the entire Google Workspace environment there with a Google Drive account or Google Workspace account. That includes a lot of extras, and we'll cover that in just a second. Now, Dropbox. Dropbox is also fast. I have never noticed a speed issue with Dropbox unless it was on the client side. Same with Google Drive. Excellent syncing with Dropbox as well. You're going to get about the same syncing ability as Google Drive there. I've already gone over that. Unfortunately, you only get 2 gig on a free basic account with Dropbox. Now, I'll go over pricing in a minute for their just standard bottom basement accounts. But a free account with Dropbox is not really a viable option. You're going to hit that 2 gig limit in no time flat. The average size, I'd say, for a LandFX folder is somewhere between 6 and 10 gigs, somewhere in there. 10's a little high. They don't often get that high. But again, I've seen them higher than 15 gigs before. So 2 gig is not going to cut it. So only good on a paid account there. That's my last remark on that. Now let's cover Microsoft. Okay, so OneDrive and SharePoint, I'm going to cover this bottom point first. It technically works. It will work with LandFX. So you can use it, technically. Now, I said before, it's native on Windows, so it's everywhere. I think that's a benefit. Native to Windows means it's going to work a little better, I guess, in some aspects. I can't really name anything off the top of my head, but it's there. It's already there. You don't have to download and install. You do get 5 gig on a basic account, a free basic account. And again, that's not going to be enough in the long run. You are going to need more space. It's the reason we don't recommend OneDrive SharePoint is because the syncing is just terrible. It really is. We can't recommend it because of that. Just syncing up, syncing down, it's just slow and bad. You're going to see a lot of duplicated files because OneDrive was unable to sync or merge new data into a file. So it makes a whole nother file with the same file name and then your username attached to it. And then that file will never be accessed. Um, like, let's just say you make a custom block and then somebody edits it and it makes a duplicate file. LandFX will never reference that duplicate file. So you'll go back into it and be like, hey, where's my changes? Where's the updates I made to this block? And it's just not going to show up in LandFX. You'll have to go back into File Explorer, browse through the directory path, find the block that you edited that has your username attached to it, and then there's your block, but it's still not going to be accessible in LandFX. You'll have to do some file renaming and some shuffling. But like I said, it technically works. You also are going to get the MS365 environment, which is kind of like the Google Workspace environment. It gives you a lot of extras, a lot of tools to work with, and a lot of Office utilities that may be useful to you. All right, let's go on to the next slide. Oh, there we go. Okay, so here's Google Drive and Workspace pricing. Now, you can't, what I'm going to cover here are the basic plans here. So business standard, this is their most popular, of course. You can also do business starter, I suppose. I think that's actually business starter is the one that I'm covering in another slide here. So we'll go with this. You get 30 gigabyte of pooled storage per user. That's definitely 100% enough. So definitely Google Drive is probably our highest recommended just because of its syncing abilities and its ubiquity of use already amongst our clients. Now, Dropbox pricing. These I'm just going over shortly because I have another slide here that does a better breakdown comparison between them. But again, we're going to be covering the Essentials account here, which gives you 3 terabyte of storage. Now, Dropbox is definitely the biggest of the storage suppliers. They offer a lot more in their basic account than the others. And here is OneDrive and Microsoft. One thing to say about their pricing is they have a minimum of 6 users here. So this price, or this one here, this is the one we cover. This is for, oh no, oh man, I may have mixed this up. Okay, so this is for 6 users, $99 a year. This is the one that I'm going to be covering here in my next slide. So the breakdowns here. The price per year per user for Google Drive is $72. Now, 30 gigs of space, and you get the Google Workspace environment. You'll see here that Dropbox has a much higher price, but they offer way more space available for the account. So on each of these, well, with the exception of OneDrive, you can just set up one business account, and then on the Google Drive application that's installed on the workstations, you would just log in with that one account, and they would have access to all the same data there. With the OneDrive one, you would want to break that up per user just because the space available is assigned per user. 6 TB total, but you get 1 TB per user there. Um, I did add PDF editing here. I was looking through their extras and did not see anything really worthwhile except for that. All right, let's move on here. Okay, so why choose local data? Why would our clients do that? 99% of the time, the phrase, but what if the internet goes down is mentioned. You have two options here. One, have a backup connection. A lot of businesses that I've ever done consulting work for or worked for, they will have more than one internet connection in case of that issue, in case the internet goes down. Um, you can have more than one connection at your place of business. Now, services, like I mentioned before, Starlink have plans that you can pay for only when used. So there's a one-time setup fee for Starlink of $600. Then you just put that equipment into a closet somewhere. You only break it out when your local ISP is having an outage. And then you bust that out 10 minutes later after a little configuration, boom, you're back up and running. Now, that will give you access to all of, you know, the LandFX resources. Not only that, but like I said, internet is needed for everything we do these days. So you can have your entire company back up and running with just that $600 insurance policy of having a backup connection. And you would only be paying for it as you use it. Now, you can have other backup internet connections that you pay for continuously, like any other, ISP would do. But there's options there. There's options where you don't have to pay for it until you use it. Now, backups are built into the system in a cloud data configuration. Um, if you edit your project or preference set in any way, it's instantly the changes made to the database on our server, and that is backed up across the world. There is no concern for losing your projects and preference sets after you've configured for cloud data. We got your back on that. All right. Now, again, that's access to live data anywhere. Anywhere you can get an internet connection, you can access your projects and preference sets. In a local data configuration, you must be tied to that server. You must either be on that network or VPN'd in, which isn't even recommended. Then you're just going to experience some slowdowns, and it's just not great. Now, again, LandFX cloud data is free to all of our clients. It doesn't matter how many licenses, what kind of licenses you have with us. You can start using cloud data today for free. All right. Now, your other option on this is local data loss. You set up for local data, you are tied to that. You better be doing backups. Servers also go down. You can experience any kind of tragedy there. Fire, theft, flood, hardware failure, etc. all come with massive downtime costs. Um, let's just say that your server goes down. Do you have an on-site backup? Is your backup off-site? You better get your guy over there and get that data, on a thumb drive at least, something, and get that back over there, get another server up and running, is put something in place. But you're looking at a lot of downtime for all of your employees. Now, backup applications can fail as well. I've experienced this personally. I've done a lot of consulting in my day, and I have seen backups set in place, and then something goes wrong. You go to do a restore, and it turns out they were never working to begin with. It's amazing to me that you can set up, thousands of dollars worth of hardware, thousands of dollars worth of software, and then when the time comes when it really matters, it just isn't there for you. That happens a lot. It's not infrequent, it's not uncommon. That happens a lot. Um, Now, as I just touched on, local servers are expensive. You're spending a lot of money on the hardware. The hardware alone, maintaining a server is expensive. Having the IT personnel just for that server is also expensive. Um, Now, shared online folder services are a fraction of that total cost. It's a fraction of the hardware cost. It's a fraction of the IT cost. Uh, but put them all together, and you really have to ask yourself, why? Why choose local data? Cloud is definitely 100% the way to go. All right. I think I've covered everything that I wanted to cover. If you do have Q&A, Jer?
Yeah, we had some good questions. I was able to answer kind of most of them, and would love to get your input on a couple of them. One was the Ignite um, platform, shared online folder platform. I thought that one
Okay.
was really solid. I just want to make sure, is that one of the ones that we definitely recommend?
Oh, Ignite and Panzura. I would put both of those in the same bucket. Ignite, I have had some experience with. As far as I know, Ignite offers two types of connection there. You can have a local device on your network that all of the data is held on and also works as an SOF. And then the other service they provide is purely SOF, to where everything's online. There is no local device. Um, we do recommend Ignite. It seems to work well with the clients that we have that use it. There's one that's not working quite well, but I think that has to do with other issues on the network. But yeah, Ignite is a enterprise level SOF solution, and I would say that they work well.
Fantastic. Yeah, and just your kind of last point on yeah, just why use local data. I mean, yeah, there's literally only one thing I can think of, and that's just if you are in a place that has literally no internet, or the internet options are so abysmally bad,
Hmm.
that's the only thing left. And so and that is but there is Starlink now. And so it's you would have to now still add on to that and say, and I can't buy Starlink because, and I would love to hear what the because is.
Oh, there's a lot of Elon Musk hate out there. So,
That must be what it is. I don't like the man who runs the company, but yet I
yep.
I still am okay shopping at Walmart, right? It's like I don't get it. Um, yeah, but yeah, there's just, I mean, the only thing I can think of is you live in Cuba or Angola where Starlink is banned, something like that. I don't know. Um, but yeah, highly recommend Starlink. I I got it because I love to go watch the rocket launches down at Vandenberg Space Force Base,
Oh yeah.
and there's no cell phone signal there, and you want to watch the prep of the live stream while you're down there, and so that's why I got it. But it's so, but use it more and more, and yeah, it's fantastic to have this. Just whip it out, turn it on, unpause the surface, and there, that cost $130 to unpause the surface, and you have great internet. It's not going to be as fantastic as a nice fiber internet, or real high end broadband. But yeah, that would be your primary, and just have Starlink as your backup, your failsafe. Just throw that there. I mean, the only other one I can think of is a good friend. He likes to go scuba diving, takes his laptop with him to work, you know, and he's like, "Yeah, I can't bring the Starlink antenna with me." And I'm like, "Okay, but I mean, how much work are you going to be able to get done if you cannot access our plant database or our symbol library? You can't email the client to ask him a question." Like, I'm struggling to think of what work can be done effectively in a sealed asylum,
Right. Right.
come on, you have to, oh, I have to research which bench I'm gonna spec, right? I mean, isn't you have to, I mean, you can't be completely locked off. So anyway, hopefully that helped everybody out. And we're here to back you up. Really appreciate everybody's questions and interest. Please keep the ideas coming for future webinars. Hope this helped. Have a great and safe weekend, everybody, and we will catch you next time.